All right, welcome back everybody to Cool's Reviews. It's not been too long since our David Bowie review, and this week we picked another kind of trippy one as we picked Hunting the Skinwalker, a prequel of sorts to Jeremy Corbell's Bob Lazar Area 51. But before we get into it, we'll just introduce ourselves as usual. My name is Keegan. Joining me tonight is
Ah,
Keegan.
say your name.
I'm Sam, also known as Keegan.
oh, we got two Keegans tonight.
It's okay. We gotta I think we might start another thing this week. We're gonna have a brand new book reading club where we read Hunt for the Skinwalkers by George Knapp. As we
I
see,
don't read. Is it on audiobook?
I believe so, but as you see, we got at least one physical copy. I can read it to you. We'll sit together and I'll read it to everybody.
Is it actually about skinwalkers though?
No, that's what's so weird about Skinwalker Ranch. I guess if you look of the native lore, there's skinwalkers and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's so strange. And they kind of even show it here where it's just like even the NIDS team doesn't see really anything. It always happens when they just happen to be away. And that's where you know where I'm at, Sam. Uh
Mm-hmm.
but before we jump into this, Sam, have you ever heard of Skinwalker Ranch before watching this documentary?
Yes, I have.
What about you, Matt?
No, I have not. This is the first time I heard of it.
Yes, I have heard of Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes, Sam and I have had plenty of debate. One day, we'll go ask the owner. I know he's like not coming out in this documentary, but like you can easily find who owns it if you just like do a quick Google search, like front and center. And I think he's even on the new TV show they have about hunting for this, whatever going on within Skinwalker Ranch. For those of you who don't know, Skinwalker Ranch really, I think, came to the public knowledge thanks to the Gorman family and just some of their experiences that they were having. One of which they kind of toned down here in the documentary, was a giant wolf-like animal that like calmly came up to them and they were petting, and it was just like so friendly. And then it just runs and darts over and starts brutally attacking one of their calves, and they're like shooting at this thing and it like just does nothing to it and it finally runs off. And here they kind of toned it down, possibly to make it, I don't know.
Well, they're using a 357 because I don't really remember that in the original story.
I don't know. I have to go back and see. There's a funny part where the NIDS team is there and he keeps saying there's something in the tree, and he runs to a different tree and he'll shoot in the air. And then the NIDS team runs over to it and he runs to the other tree and shoots in there over there. But yeah, Skinwalker Ranch, a lot of the sightings, at least the Gormans had, were not skinwalkers as we may think of them. I definitely kind of thought of Skinwalker Ranch because I just read the latest John LeMay book, which actually has a Skinwalker in it. That one's fictional, but I just like the lore of Skinwalkers, especially having Alan on the team and just kind of hearing some of his stories. So I guess we'll go into it real quick. Matt, what did you learn from this 2 hour and 4 minute documentary?
Well, it has nothing to do with zombies. So not those type of skinwalkers. I learned that it's a place I would definitely want to check out. That for some reason, that this particular part of Utah is calling grounds for the paranormal and the whether it's spirits or spirits from above, the aliens. They like this part of the world.
Yeah, there was that one part where they're like, this is the UFO hotspot of, and I thought they were going to say the US. And I was like, oh, the UFO Watchtower is going to be mad at them if they say that. Sam, what did you learn from this documentary?
I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Jeremy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Whoa, whoa. Did you just take a shot at Jeremy Corbell?
Yeah, because there was multiple times that he was explaining things, and I felt more lost than me just watching it without the conversation and kind of getting the understanding of it.
I will say the editing was
But then also,
different.
what I've learned besides that is It's more has to do with like kind of UFO sightings than it actually does skinwalkers, which leads me to believe that they're interdimensional Bigfoots potentially.
I mean, at this point, if
I
it's
agree with Sam on that one.
remember, Sam, if it's between shadows and substance, an interdimensional Bigfoot, I think, falls in that description.
Would they be shadows or would they be substances?
I mean, shadow people, see, and then substance is like physical people.
I know, but shadow people are a much, much different thing.
I know, and there's no shadow. One thing I learned though is people still picture dire wolves as what they appear in Game of Thrones, when in reality, direwolves aren't related to wolves. They're no longer considered Canis dirus. What is it, Aeon Scion dirus? Closer related to like the stilted wolves or jackals. They've been pretty similar size to like a gray wolf. So this like horse-sized wolf that they were describing, I have no idea what that was.
Werewolf, maybe.
Yeah, they did say werewolves at one point.
True. But I did cut you off from you defending Jeremy. So tell us what you think of Jeremy.
I think Jeremy is living out his dream of talking about things he's really intrigued about. We've seen a couple of his documentaries, and you know what? If Jeremy ever wanted to come on Cool's interviews, we would be happy to have him join us. I mean, like, honestly, I do feel that, hey, he's just making documentaries of things he finds interesting. But I
True.
think our original assumption that he would have been better narrating the Bob Lazar one is 100% on point. Because at
Oh yeah.
least I could hear what he was saying. Like the other
No, him
one
as a
was just like,
narrator was really good. Opposed to oh god, dude, that Bob Lazar one
oh man, it
was
was
bad.
like,
That was bad.
would they like our what condors or kimonos or whatever still one of my favorite movie quotes of all time. So I don't know. How do you guys feel about the whole story of Skinwalker Ranch? Matt, we'll start with you.
I don't know. It's got some pretty interesting stuff, and they have some footage and some photos. Anymore, it's really hard to tell, especially as we continue to advance in technology. You know what could have been doctored and what has not. But I mean, I'm fully, like I said, believing what I'm seeing, and I want to get out there. You know, it has me intrigued.
That's only a bad part now with the new owner. We can no longer go out there. So,
That's okay. We'll make some phone calls. We'll make it happen.
hey, we have some new connections now, so we might actually be able to make it happen. Sam, what about you? Like, as far as the validity of the stories, and there's definitely a couple different ones going on here. You got the original one, you got the NIDS team, and then you got the newer owners. Like, what do you feel?
It's definitely a quite fascinating like location. There's a lot of very strange stuff that's happening there, and like only like the natives there see it a lot because they're constantly living there. But like when these out of town people kind of come in, they don't really catch anything. So it's not something that these things want to show to these people, or they are being shown to these people, but they're kind of still a good example is like the story of Pocahontas. Like I always relate this to like a lot of UFO sightings when some people can't see it. When Columbus's ships first came in, they just like the indigenous people that were there just thought of them as clouds opposed from ship sails, and like then somebody kind of explained it to them and then they saw it for what it actually was. So that's kind of could be the same with certain people that haven't experienced or haven't seen certain things. I even think that sometimes when I look up in the sky I notice something that's like out of the ordinary, but like could be something that could be a craft in the sky, but then also I just can't see it for what it is because my mind is not wanting to comprehend it in that way. So there's a big potential that when these people or when investigators or all these whoever's out there kind of looking into it is looking into it, maybe they are seeing it and it's right there in front of them, but they just can't see it because their mind hasn't like grasped what it is. So I don't know. It's hard to really say because a lot of people don't see things or the sightings, but it also could just, I don't know. There's lots of variables that could be the reason why they're not finding it, or it's not wanting to be found by them.
Okay. Not a bad point. I think we'll kind of know where I stand on Skinwalker Ranch. I will say one thing. Do I believe weird things happen there? Yeah. But I just don't think it happens to the frequency that it's like this super Bermuda Triangle hotspot type of deal. Because there's so many other spots, especially close by here in Colorado, where weird stuff happens more as far as like actual physical evidence based off compared to like stories where we don't really have proof and who knows if it's truth or not, you know? Like if you look at UFO Watchtower, like so many people are having weird experiences out there, even people that don't believe. And there's lots of photographs. There's a horse skeleton Snippy, which we saw. And then you compare that to Skinwalker Ranch, and they have some pictures. I know with more cameras and stuff, they've been able to get some weird UFO or Tic Tacs, as people might call them. But we really don't have any of the weird animal anomalies or anything like that. And the one picture they showed, at least here at the beginning, with the like, I think it was a cow. It looked like it had just been picked off by like scavengers and stuff. Like it didn't look mutilated. Like
It
it,
did,
it
but
was
like
just
it
like the
also was kind of
bones.
weird that there was like no blood around it, like physically no blood.
Well, and see, this is where we gotta. At some point, we'll have to watch the one. And I don't know if it's Skinwalker Ranch. No, it's up in Washington, but it kind of goes into the mutilations a little bit more. And I think once you watch that, it'll make a little bit more sense.
Fair. I
Um,
mean, I know a good amount about mutilations and all that stuff, so it's definitely a stranger mutilation if that's what we're gonna consider it. But like it also, yeah, it doesn't make sense for like a mutilation thing, but it also doesn't make sense that the way it was, how it, yeah, just how the whole thing played out doesn't make sense at all and doesn't like have any conclusions for any of it.
yeah, just it seemed odd to me when they showed the photo of the horse or the cow, whatever it was, and it was just like flesh on like the bone itself, and that's all that was left. It looked very different than like what we think of cattle mutilations, where it's just like the eyes, the tongues, the intestines, that kind of stuff without blood. It
Mhm.
looked much more like wolves or cougar or vultures had gotten to and picked it clean, just in my eyes.
I mean, but the blood would be weird unless it's your favorite four-legged creature,
Which one?
the chupacabra.
I mean, we did see them fighting at the Alamo one time.
True, this is a valid point. Oh,
Matt,
what I was gonna say to what you were saying was, what if potentially some of the evidence that they try and capture there gets like wiped, like we did with that one investigation? Like, there's just like too much electricity that it just kind of like wipes a lot of stuff that they have caught, so they don't really have that distinct proof towards it.
it's possible. I'm trying to remember now if people that lived there after the Gorman family had any experiences, or even the people before, because there was people that the Gormans bought the ranch from, and if I remember correctly, they didn't. I think it really all started with that wolf, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. Luckily, I do have the book. We're gonna read together in a circle, have snack time, popcorn, possibly some drinks.
Yeah, because weren't they warned not to mess with like do anything on the ranch
I
when they
think
like
that
first moved in?
I think that was the NIDS team. When the NIDS team came in, they couldn't do anything with the ground and stuff. But I
Well, I
think,
thought the original story talked about like the ranch and like when he first moved in there and like he was told to like not dig on the land without like asking something. You had to like ask before you could like dig or do anything, and he didn't do any of that. And that's when it all started to begin to happen.
yeah, I mean, if that's how it happened, the real reason he couldn't was because he didn't own the rights to what was under the ground. There's a lot of weird, like, legal stuff. This is something that McDonald's, which we talked about last week, really helped them because they ended up owning the land, but not the buildings. And so their franchisees would have to pay off the franchise thing, which would, they already, McDonald's owned the land. So they were just making free money at that point. So there's mineral
Hmm.
rights, there's land rights, and that's more of what that kind of dealt with.
Also kind of wonder if it's like that one Blue Book episode, which we haven't gotten to yet, but like that base underground
With
or
the
that
yeah, with the house.
the facility.
Yeah, with
Like
the
maybe
kids and
that's why they were
stuff.
just like, don't dig underground.
I mean, with that kind of subjects, we'll probably never know if that is the case, you know. Unfortunately, once it gets to kind of like the boogeyman, it's hard to prove it at that point. It's a possibility. Maybe all these crafts that they are seeing are just like experimental military crafts.
Which would make sense with that mutilation technically is us trying to like be in kind of like a school session for us to like learn about it. Because I do know that like there's a way to tell like an actual spacecraft to a kind of government made one by just the way it looks. So could just be like a test run maybe. Hard to say.
I guess kind of small spoilers for that one episode I was going to tell you guys about, but the mutilations were kind of pinpointed to the government possibly testing if there was radiation in the ground and stuff. And so they'd come in secretly overnight, take the cows, do experiments, and then bring the bodies back.
Hmm.
And so that explains sort of why the blood's not there because it didn't happen there. That's just where they found the body.
Yeah,
We'll
I
have
want
to
to
look.
look at it because I'm wondering if they did see the mother and child before it happened, or if it like they didn't even notice them at first and then they saw it.
I don't know because I remember too, like the UFO ones were so weird. There was the one story where I can't remember if they were on the porch or they were sitting somewhere, but they said it looked like a bus almost, just like sitting in the field with two lights. And so they went to yell at it, and then it just like came towards them. And I can't remember if it just disappeared or if it went up in the air or not.
It's been a while since I've heard that original story. I need to refresh myself on it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something we'll have to do this year. We'll talk a little bit more about Skinwalker Ranch, perhaps do some
Hmm.
episodes. It ties in a little bit with, you
Get
know,
Alan involved as well.
yeah, to get his input on as far as like the Skinwalker lore and stuff. But it
Hmm.
also would tie in with your weekly abduction episode where we did talk about some actual mutilations that happened here in Colorado.
True.
And those were a lot. Like it wasn't just like three or four. There was hundreds if I remember correctly.
I mean, every state has had a lot. Some have more than others, but every state does have a bunch of mutilations that did happen.
Matt, going to you as far as like what's going on, do you have any possible explanations?
No, I mean, like I said, it's a hit and miss type thing. Some stuff they say kind of really intrigues you because it's like, oh, they move 1,000 pounds of wood from one side to the other within 30 minutes or whatever. And then there's some stuff where it's being very evil. So you can't really even put your finger on whether this is something evil or something that just is being a nuisance. It seems like a mix. They're pushing that it's evil, but I don't know. Who knows with that?
And so I think our next part that we'll talk about kind of goes more into like the editing and the style of the film. Matt, do you want to talk about how you felt about it as far as the change in the ratios throughout, the words, how words would just pop up here and there?
It was definitely a different type of editing. There was like some parts where the screen would just go dark and the words would pop up of what he was saying, and it's like, what is this? Is this supposed to be like a subliminal mind message? Am I supposed to remember that question? Or it was done again differently, very different from the last film we watched. With David Bowie. That one was already crazy editing, and this one I think is along that same lines of even way different from that, but just kind of crazy. It threw you off a little bit, so I think you get distracted a little bit in the editing. So then you're not focused on maybe what you're supposed to be. But again, maybe they're just trying to capture your attention as well. I'm not sure.
Sam, what about you? How did you feel about the editing and all that?
I mean, I definitely thought it was very unique because there was something else that I watched about this that had like a lot more pictures and descriptions of stuff that they saw. but it was definitely like hard to. It was decent. It was weird. Didn't like Matt was saying it was kind of weird for the like black screen and then just words. Like I didn't understand that, but maybe they were just doing something at the time and couldn't film it or something. I don't really know. Or just wanted to do the audio over it.
Do you think this is better than Bob Lazar?
I mean, yeah, a little bit, like not by much, but definitely a little bit better.
All right, what about you, Matt?
I don't remember the movie well enough to really say anything. I couldn't tell you on that one. This one was definitely interesting though.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. I think technic like just as far as the technicality of how it was filmed, it looked better. I don't know. I think I like the Bob Lazar one. I think it was more interesting. So going into like ratings and recommendations, Sam, what would you rate it and would you recommend it?
I mean, I'm gonna be generous. I'll give it a 6, and I would recommend it because it's like a different take of the story of Skinwalker Ranch. It definitely like undercuts a lot of the things that happen there, and it like focuses more on just like certain things, but doesn't go into much detail about them either. So, I mean, it's a good like summary about it. 2 hour summary of the story, which I think when I either listened to it, it was like put into like an hour and a half and was like more in depth. If I remember that correctly, I don't honestly don't know. I forget that story because like I've heard a couple of them. One I heard in like a podcast, and then I think you showed me another podcast about it on Chris Jericho on
Yeah, I
Talk
think
is Jericho.
yeah, I think Talk is Jericho and then Chilluminati are the two I've heard it on.
Yeah, and I think you showed me both of those, and then I'm pretty sure I found one on something else. I think it was on the Supernatural podcast, but I don't honestly remember.
Okay.
I'll have to look into that and like double check it and maybe throw it in the comments if I did find it on there and I can put like the episode too. Because it was
Yeah.
definitely fascinating. And yeah, because this one didn't even talk about the portals and like creatures crawling out of them. There was a lot that was kind of missing and like even a lot of the UFO sightings that were seen there. But no, I would still kind of recommend it, and it's a fascinating, different kind of take on it.
Okay. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, Sam's being very generous there. I'm probably gonna give this one about a 4.5 to a 5. I think it was stretched out too long. I think they could have given this, or put all the stuff that they wanted to get out there in like 45 minutes, but they stretched it in over 2 hours. But again, there was some neat stuff in there. It definitely, like I said, it kind of piqued my interest a little bit on some of it. But again, this was the first time I've heard about Skinwalker Ranch. I know you guys have been more into detail, so I need to maybe study up a little bit more on it.
Yeah, for
I mean, we
me,
tried to investigate there before they like completely shut it down.
yeah, no, because at one point you could rent the cabin or something, if I remember correctly, because we had that all kind of planned out and then it sold. And I was like, dang it. And I think that's maybe too, maybe that's why I'm a little salty with Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know. For me, I'd probably rate it that 4, maybe 5. Definitely, I think we could have condensed it some, but at the same time, I did enjoy seeing some of the older footage, if that makes sense. At times, it kind of was distracting, just jumping back and forth between ratios so quickly. Um, that's something else that bugs me. Like even in Hollywood movies, when they jump back and forth in ratios so much between scenes, it's just kind of just pick one. It's okay if you pick and switch, but don't do it so much. Yeah, I think if you don't really know too much about Skinwalker Ranch, this might be of interest. If you have interest in UFOs or cattle mutilations, this will be of interest. If you're interested in the Skinwalker mythology, probably not, because they're not really talked about. It's always been kind of weird to me that it's called Skinwalker Ranch and it's like UFOs.
Yeah, because they didn't even brush on like what they thought were skinwalkers on there, like I
Mm-mm.
was saying. And they missed out some mutilations too, because I think he found one of his cows at like the bottom of a hill,
Like in the winter
or
or
like
something.
yeah, the cliff, and it was like, if I'm not mistaken, I think it had some metal in it.
All right, guys. So that's our review of Hunt for the Skinwalker. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. It's a topic I think all of us want to talk about more as far as Skinwalkers and Skinwalker Ranch, because I feel like they're two separate things. But we'll definitely touch upon them in the future. But until next time, let us know if you've seen Skinwalker or Hunt for the Skinwalker. And if you want to see more Cool's reviews, click that link to your left. If you want to see more about what we're doing here at Cool's Paranormal, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe.
Subscribe and switch that notification bell from personalized to all if you want to be updated on all of our upcoming and recent content. We definitely do a variety over here, so it's never know what will come up, what to expect. Always a fun time.
1 week McDonald's and next week cattle mutilations.
Yeah.